Welcome to the Bear Rumble Podcast, your home for everything BHP football. Each week, we dive into the greatest games, preview what's coming next, and share the stories that make Belton Honeypath Bears football special. From legendary coaches to unforgettable moments, this is where Bear Nation comes together. This is the Bear Rumble Podcast.
Hey there, Bear fans. Welcome to another episode of the Bear Rumble Podcast. I'm your host, Kayne Evans, and we have a great episode for you this week. This week, we'll be talking about the domination up front on that defensive line. We'll be joined by Coach Chris Rogers, the defensive line coach and head men's golf coach at BHP. We'll be talking about the dominance that we've seen up front so far for the Bears. After we talk with Coach Rogers, we'll jump in with a review of last week's win against Palmetto. We'll talk about the mid-season stats. And then lastly, we'll preview the upcoming game with the Chapman Panthers. But without further ado, we'll jump in with Coach Rogers and talk about that defensive line. All right, this week we got Coach Chris Rogers with us, the defensive line coach, also head golf coach. So we might even touch on a couple of that sort of thing. BHP alum. He was graduated from BHP on the 2004 state championship team, played a few different positions there, and we'll probably touch on that as we go through some of these questions. But thanks again, Chris, for being with us, and we're excited to hear from you.
Man, thank you for having me on. It's just awesome what you and your dad do for our program. We tell our kids all the time, not everybody has all the blessings that we have at Belton Honeypath, all the way from things that y'all do to just, our community support all together. So thank you.
Absolutely. We're excited for them. Before we get started, a couple north-south announcements came out this week on your defensive side of the ball. Jakari, then we had Kyle and Dixon both being selected. I know that was big for the team. I'm sure they were all excited today hearing that.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. We're so happy for those guys. They've put in a lot of hard work, and hard work's paid off for those guys. You just hate sometimes they can only pick two, know. Yeah, we got a lot of good choices, and so, but yeah, man, I'm super excited for those guys.
Yeah, I feel that same way. Sometimes you look down that list, I'm like, we picking from that team, but I understand we got to spread the love. I know there's be some years that maybe a Dutch Fork could probably field a whole team and beat the All-Star team. I'm sure that, but it's great to see at least two of these Bears. Their hard work, and it's a testament to the team too. They wouldn't be able to show those talents as high as they can without the guys around them. So
that's right.
Congratulations to them. Congratulations
nomination.
To you,
that nomination is as much as a team award as anything else. Like you said, it takes 11 guys on each side of the ball, to get the job done, and so they reaping the benefits of having some good teammates as well.
Absolutely. All right, man, let's jump into some background. I always like to start that way. We won't go through all of the ins and outs, but I do want to talk to you. Like I said, you grew up in Belton, played Belton Rec, Belton Middle, played on all those football teams, played at BHP. Like I said, started on that 2004 state championship team. Talk to me a little bit about what it's like back at your alma mater and now coaching for BHP with all the ties that you have to the team and the community as a whole.
The word that just comes to mind is blessed. I'm blessed the opportunity to give back to the youth in our communities, just like so many coaches gave to me coming through. Just extremely blessed to be where I am today.
Yeah, and I think anybody that's kind of in our same vein, we can picture those guys in our mind, picturing 10 and under football, your coaches there, 12 and under, your middle school coaches, and then everybody in both of the JV. I know for me, I played 2 years of JV. Those coaches, I spent almost more time with them than varsity coaches once I had 2 years with the varsity side. So there's so many in those positions. Talk to me about some of those guys that really made an influence for you growing up through BHP.
Man, like I said, I was blessed with a lot of guys in my life, coaches that were, not just good coaches, but good godly men and guys of high character. From middle school all the way through. You had from Rusty Clonger to Wayne Green. And then blessed to when I came back into the coaching thing, blessed to work with some of my former coaches and work under
Mhm.
them. I worked under Rusty at Belton Middle School. I
Mhm.
first started working under Matt Worst doing the
Mhm.
wrestling, and
Mhm.
so I got to really work with him and learn some things from him. And then he kind of threw my name out there and gotten, I think, a little bit of Coach Blackson's ear, and so now I'm working under Coach Blackson. So all those guys are high character guys,
Mhm.
highly men, and um, really really taught you that there's more to coaching than just X's and O's. Coach Blackson, one of his sayings is, what are you going to be after BHP?
Mhm.
And the ball's going to go flat for everybody at some point. It's a reminder to our players they got a plan for the future, but it's also a
Mhm.
reminder to us coaches that we're here more than just coaching football, or for
Yeah.
me, coaching golf, and you know, we're here to grow young men.
Mhm.
So that was a great example for me growing up, and then working under some great people that were some positive influences on me. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is we had guys that cared, and
Yeah.
they cared about the players, and it showed me how to care more than about wins and losses. We got to care about the people.
Absolutely. And that's one thing about being both coming up in the community. You also, we would go to church with these guys. You saw them outside of football. And for me, they were always the same. They weren't going to cuss you out at football and then saying the prayers at church on Wednesday night or anything like that. They were always that same guy in and out, and being able to connect those outside forces. I know a lot of times, especially maybe at higher levels, it's a job for some guys. But for
Yep.
you, and I know growing up, coaches that really meant something, it wasn't truly a job. It was how they treated everybody, how they took it upon themselves to do things up and above actually the coaching side. And I can definitely see that with you and your staff, how you treat your guys and all that sort of thing.
Well, I appreciate that, and we try our best. We definitely try our best.
All right. Yeah, with that background, like I said, you were on the state championship, the 2004 state championship team. Talk to me a little bit about bringing your personal player experience from that experience, now trying to at least show some of that to some of your players who that's where they want to be. They want to be that 15-0 team playing in a state championship, winning a state championship. How does that, your personal experience playing in that game, playing in that season, translate to what you're trying to teach some of your guys?
Well, I just want to remind some of the listeners that you were on that same team too, Kane, and uh, you know, you know, just like I do, that football's changed a little bit since me and you were playing,
Yeah.
and the style of play is a little bit different. Games always evolve, but
Mhm.
what doesn't change is hard work. Hard work always pays off.
Mhm.
You can be more talented than other people and not win.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can be the less talented team and win. But
Mhm.
work ethic and hard work, that's never going to change no matter what goes on with the future of football and how the game evolves. Hard work is something that you have to have.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely see that. I just thinking about the time we had on those. I can think of those guys who didn't miss weightlifting during the summer. Never showed up late. Always showed up ready to work. And I think, like you said, those kind of things transcend football philosophy and all that sort of thing. And it's great for you to point out that. And it does seem like this team here, you've got some hard workers. It seems like there's no taking plays off and that sort of thing. I can totally tell that.
Absolutely, yeah. We got a group of guys who are hungry and
Yeah.
ready to work every day, and and that's what we have to do as coaches. We have to keep them that way too. We got to keep them hungry and got to keep them humble and got
Yeah.
to keep them after it.
Yeah. And I know that may have been other than just like how football styles have changed from my outside layman's view, the that type of competition differences might be the biggest change from when we played. I know there was always teams that you expected to win every year and that sort of thing, but from my viewpoint, there's never teams that you would expect to not be competition. And I think in how the numbers fell out with the last reclassification, it seems that there's some haves and have-nots, and I know that's probably one of the biggest difficulties, especially with how students are today, that short-minded, keeping them focused on the kind of nameless, faceless opponent that you have coming up and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and we were just short of the top of that mountain last year, and
Yeah.
but we've been close these
Yeah.
past few years, and we've had very successful seasons. The hardest part's not getting up there; the hardest part's trying to stay up there. So that's what we have to stay focused on as a program is staying up towards the top and finally getting to the top.
Yeah, yeah. And what I think I heard it this week, Coach Saban said something. More people die coming down from Mount Everest than going up. I know you guys were at the peak of the mountain last year. Can't let that complacency set in. And this year, that fire just coming up just a little short seems to really be burning in you guys to get back and hopefully finish the task this year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's the plan, man. We want to stay hungry and get
There you
back
go.
to it and finish the job this year.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that defensive line, at least the identity of it, before we talk about individuals. So, BHP's always been known, their strengths have been in that trenches, both offensive line. I think Coach Blackson brings that kind of background, but also there's been so many defensive linemen that have came through. One's playing in Columbia for SEC team right now. JT Greer. Talk to me about what defines being a BHP defensive lineman, and what do you emphasize with those guys day in and day out to kind of meet that standard?
Just not defensive linemen, but I think for our program, toughness
Yeah.
is definitely something that we demand out of our athletes. We have a motto, tough people win around here.
Mhm.
And so you definitely got to be tough. You've got to be athletic,
Yeah.
We've got to have, the more athletic you are, the better chance you are at making plays. And you got to have a high motor.
Okay.
We want guys swarming to the football. It should never be one guy on a tackle. It should be 11 guys on the ball every single play. And, not just one play, not a quarter. It's 4 quarters of 11 Bears swarming to the football.
Yeah.
And so those are some things that, qualities we look at. And then, especially defensive line, we look at, I preach, attention to detail.
Okay.
Looking at pre-snap stuff, knowing the down and distance, knowing the situations we're in. Is that offensive lineman light on his hands and look like he's about to pull?
Mm-hmm.
Is his heels off the ground? He's heavy on his hands and he's about to fire off the football.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing kind of formations we got. So
Yeah.
just those little attention to detail and getting better at our football IQ.
Yeah. Yeah. And talk to me about how it is coaching both the interior guys. We'll get to the actual fellas, but also coaching those outside guys, especially in a defense like BHP. BHP is so multiple where some years you're going 3 down linemen where you're playing almost 3-2-5 techniques and a nose guard. Or then some years you're playing a 4 down lineman where you got guys like that. Sometimes in a short yardage, you're bringing in an extra lineman, have 5 down linemen doing a kind of a bear looking defense. Talk to me about how it is and what you preach on for the interior versus those defensive end type players.
Well, kind of hitting on what you're talking about, multiple defenses. Certain years we'll play different defenses because, in high school, you don't get to go recruit. You got to play the dudes that's at your school.
There you go.
And so there's years that we have bodies that fit a 4-man front. There's years we don't. So we play, more linebacker type bodies. We play a 3-man front. Then, there's years that you got a little bit of wealth and you can do a little bit of both. So it just depends on the type of kids you got in your program to kind of, what we go with as a scheme wise. But to your question about, differences between interior and exterior guys, our edges with our defense, we're a spill style defense. And so, our edges, we got to know on a down block, we got to squeeze those down blocks when we got a wrong arm. And, we want that ball to spill out to, to our linebackers and safeties coming down and swarming to the ball. Our interior guys, you can't give up ground. Hey, if you're getting double teamed, you got to take on double teams. That's going to free up linebackers to run to the ball. And if we're getting pullers, hey, we got to chase those pullers because those guys are pulling. They don't take it to the ball. those are just a few little things, differences between, our outside and inside guys.
Yeah, talk to me about the actual fellas now. A super talented group. I think looking at it across the board, especially your 4 starters, maybe the best group you've had, maybe in your time, and maybe since a long time ago. So, talk to me about the guys you actually have in your group.
Yeah, starting with the big boys inside, and which this whole group together, it is like you said, it's a special group. But those two big guys inside, Kylan Dixon, he's a 4-year starter.
Mm-hmm.
Marion as a junior, this is his 3rd year starting. So they've got a lot of football underneath their belts,
Mm-hmm.
and they're big, they're athletic.
Mm-hmm.
What they do so well is play with their hands. A lot of times high school football players, they struggle playing with their hands
Mm-hmm.
and moving their feet. They want to make contact, and then they want to just stop and look for the ball.
Yeah.
These guys never stop. They're able to use their hands, use their feet while looking for the ball at the same time. And kind of like I was talking about earlier, their football IQ is really, really strong with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
They can come off the sideline and say, "Hey, coach, hey, I know when the right guard's pulling every time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, coach, hey, when they make this call, they're pushing their protection or
Mm-hmm.
whatever." So, they're smart guys, and Kamarion and Kylan get a lot of the praise, but man, we got some other guys that uh, on the inside that have been playing a lot of football. And Kylan's brother Keelan, he
Mm-hmm.
stepped in like last year. Kylan got hurt, and
Mm-hmm.
he played a lot of reps on the D line, playing double duty from offensive and defensive line. And then Keegan Mosher, he's played some over there. This year we haven't had to use those guys as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then, part of that is other guys like Holden Chandler. He's a
Yeah.
senior, and he's just every year gotten better and better and earned more playing time. So you've seen him out there
Mm-hmm.
this year because the guy's worked hard and he's earned it.
Yeah.
And then moving to the outside, we've got a guy in Ty Rainey, all region last year. And he started out as a sophomore, and man, he was really, he was wet behind the ears, learning to play that position. But in 3 years, how much he's grown. And, you hear our offensive coaches talking about, hey, if we can kick that guy out, we can kick anybody out because he does such a great job of squeezing and wrong arming.
Mm-hmm.
And he's no fun to kick out,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's gotten so much better in his pass rush over the years, and he's just been able to grow. And then on the opposite side of him is Kanaze Bryant, who he's one of them kids that it just took a while for him to figure out where he was supposed to be on the field.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't figure out, was he a defensive end, was he an offensive tackle, was he a tight end? And so he kind of bounced around for a little bit before finding his home at defensive end. And man, each week he just keeps getting better
Yeah.
and better and better. And, if he keeps the pace up,
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry for the teams coming down the road.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be a handful. And, he's a big kid, but he can move. Speaking of the edges a little bit, at the beginning of the year, you do some bold predictions. And, those are kind of tough on us a little bit sometimes. But I don't think one of your bold predictions was a defensive lineman to be tied for the team in pass breakups halfway through the season. So Kanaze he's tied with our team for pass breakups on the season. The only downside of that is he should be leading the team in interceptions. So we got to work on his hands a little bit, and it's coming. I promise you, it's coming for him. He's going to get one of those before it's said and done.
Mm-hmm.
But man, this group's so much fun. And behind those two guys, the edge I was talking about, we got some young guys that they're just coming along. They're pressing the guys in front of them. And those guys know if I slip up, them guys are ready to come and take my spot. And that's really what it's about, man. Pushing each other, making each other better every day.
Yeah, and that's the culture. And just to touch on that, going back to when we were at BHP, and especially on that state championship team, everybody was willing to go good on good. So that's how you made people better, and everybody was willing to push the guy in front of you. So, and it exactly what you're laying out there. that championship pedigree, what you're talking about. Let me talk about those ends first, and then we'll deep dive on my favorite two guys up in the middle. But those ends, you're exactly right. Kanaza Bryant, just maybe out of nowhere from me, but his body type is that perfect defensive end. He is long. He is pretty stout. Also, I think he leads the team in, or at least tied for the team in tackles for loss, and he's right up there with sacks. So he's getting after the ball too. And like you said, those ends, you ask a lot from those ends, both reading the play, reading those pulling blocks. Then on Ty's side, I think I've even seen you drop Ty into coverage sometimes. Like I said, you just ask so much about from these defensive ends. What is it about those two guys, and then also the confidence that Jared defense coordinator
Coach
has?
Jennings.
Yeah, Coach Jennings. Talk to me about the confidence he has in your guys to ask all this and get them to play at such a high level in the defense.
Well, part of it is these guys, have played a lot of football for
Sure.
us. Like I mentioned, we got 3-4 year starters up front. And so when you have that, you're able to build and just stack on top each year a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, so you're not having to start over. And so once we get to the point where we're at with these guys, we're able to do so many different things with these guys, where, from coaches, sometimes we have to say, hold on, let's, I know they can handle it, but let's dial it back a little bit. But yeah, we're able to do so many things. We're able to send exotic blitzes when we want to. We're able to, drop guys in, we trust linemen to drop in coverage and so we're able to do so many multiple things when we have a veteran group and a veteran athletic group. Those guys on the outside, they're athletic, but the guys on the inside, they're athletic too. So you better not sleep on those guys too.
Yeah, let's talk about those two guys, especially those two guys in the middle. You mentioned my bold predictions, but the amount of production that they've had coming into the season was just so unreal from a defense, pretty much a nose guard and a defensive tackle. The amount of pressure they can get on a quarterback, and then the tackles for loss. A lot of times, especially with guys their size, they're there to eat up blocks. They're there to stop runs. These guys do that super well. But tell me about how they can use their athleticism to get after the quarterback when it's time to do that.
Well, it starts with their IQ, their football IQ, and knowing the situation that's on the field. And so before the ball's even snapped, they're getting themselves in an advantage of whether it's alignment, or whatever. They're able to get in their head what type of move they're going to hit off the line. So, and then they're just physical. Like I mentioned earlier, they're physical with their hands. They've got great feet, and so they're able to get that pressure up the middle on a quarterback. When an offense tries to use that against them, they're really good at playing the screen. If you're a running back or a receiver that catches a screen pass, you better start getting north quick because 61 and 62, they're tracking you. And when they get you, it's not going to feel well. That's a lot of weight coming down on you. And so you better get to moving north and stop moving side to side because they're coming after you quick.
Yeah. It's been more than one time that I've seen those guys track a running back down, those big paws get on them, and then that running back starts moving backwards pretty quick at that point.
I mean, your average, your average defensive lineman, they can make a play when the ball's ran out at them, But what amazes me is how many plays they make when the ball's going away from them.
Yeah.
They're laying out and making a tackle from behind or pursuing the football, and a guy's kind of trying to make a cut to find a hole, and then there they come out of nowhere to clean them up. So that's something that makes them special on the inside.
Yeah, just think about Friday night when Kylan walked down the quarterback, forces the fumble, like all from your defensive tackle position. There's play after play that these guys do. That's just, if you don't see it in person, it's hard to get such an impressive impression about it. Let's talk about the defensive as a whole. Your line is a part of it, but this group as a whole is shaping up to be, it's already on paper one of the best in the state, but the production, actually what you're putting out there week game in, game out, the domination every week has just been such revealing, both defensive line but throughout. Talk to me about both all three levels. We've talked about your down lineman. Talk to me about how the linebacker core has came along that helps your lineman, or your lineman help the core, and then talk about that back end, how your defensive line can really turn them loose to let them do what they do best.
Yeah, man. I mean, we talked about the defensive line, and they got really good size up front. Then when you
Yep.
look at our linebackers, our two inside linebackers, they're both 6 foot or taller and can
Mhm.
run, man. I mean, those
Mhm.
guys can run. They can cover ground.
Mhm.
If you don't believe me, don't cover Jakari when he plays wide receiver. And then, outside backer, KJ's moved over from the free safety spot, and you guys have seen it. The guy, he's looking to hit somebody, but he can also run and cover. And it's the same thing all over the board. I mean, everybody knows Tajay.
Mhm.
You know, D. Chester, his brother, he's got length. He's tall. He's back there at safety, and he can cover a lot of ground too.
Yeah.
He picked the ball off for us Friday night.
Mhm.
You wish you could have, that touchdown could have stayed on the board, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, he intercepted the pass, and that makes 2 for the season on him.
Mhm.
Grady Belton, a kid that's fought injury
Mhm.
last year and bounced back, is having a great year this year. And then Dejon Walker coming back out after taking a year off, and
Mhm.
those are all they're all long guys
Yeah.
that cover a lot of ground. And then on top of it, can they not only cover ground, but they do it and with swarm to the football?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you can watch, zoom in on the film and watch the ball carrier, and at the end
Mhm.
of the play, you got 11 bear helmets around the
Yeah.
football. And
Yeah.
so that's demoralizing to an
Yeah.
offense, is when, you got 11 guys get to that football, no matter whether it's a pass or a run. And
Yeah.
I think, that's something that Coach Jennings preaches every day, is get
Yeah.
everybody getting to the football, and our kids have bought into it.
Mhm.
And man, it's just fun to coach this whole group from the back end to the front.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned Jakari. So Jakari's playing some on offense, wide receiver, and Tajay plays a good bit on offense. Any chance we see a Kylan Dixon handoff at the goal line, or anybody
Uh,
asking to getting him some touches?
you better go talk to old Jink about that one. I stay out of those conversations, and you know, so if that's in their plans, I haven't heard anything about it. So you have to go talk to him.
Not going to see a Camarian Glenn
Yeah,
slant
I
route
see
or
what you're
something.
doing, Kane. Yeah, you trying to stir the pot over there a little bit. I
Oh
see.
no, no. We try to get best 11 on the field. That's all I'm saying. No, talk to me about mention this with Coach O'Brien, and talk to me about what it's like going against that offensive line for BHP, especially those interior guys that they're the ones we all know. But year in and year out, that's a focal point on offense, is that offensive line. How is that going against those guys day in and day out help your guys as you get ready for opponents every week?
Yeah, I mean, I know if we can experience success against our offensive linemen, we can experience success against pretty much anybody. First couple drives of the game, sometimes we're always trying to figure out how they feel. What you think about their offensive line. Sometimes you're like, hey, sometimes like I don't know. I said, well, compare them to our guys. If they're like, oh, no, we're better than that. I'm like, all right, it's gonna be a good night for the Bears.
Yeah,
If they say they're about the same. Like, hey, strap it up. It's going to be a
there we
night.
go.
Let's go.
There we go.
So, going against them every day, it makes us better, both them and us.
Absolutely.
The saying, game recognizes game, right? And so they see that every day, and they're right. If they win, hey, we recognize, yep, y'all did a good job. Hats off to you. We win. It's the same thing. So it's fun. It's fun competition.
Absolutely. All right, I got one more and then we'll get into a quick lightning round. I always like to end on this. I want to give you a time. Talk to me about some of those special memories that you've had as a coach. Now, I know and if you tie any of those to while you were at BHP, but tell me a couple of those special memories that you've had over the last few years with the Bears.
Obviously, as a player playing a state championship, but how many people get to experience playing in a state championship and coaching in a state championship?
Yeah, not
That was
many.
awesome. The past couple of years doing, upper state games,
Yeah.
those are always something you'll remember. But, going back, I forget what exact year it was, but back in like the 2000, maybe somewhere around 16, 17, 18, we go to Greer in the
Mhm.
like second round of the playoffs. And
Mhm.
man, it was one of those just cold playoff
Mhm.
nights. The grass was dead. It was yellow. You knew it was, playoff time. Greer was undefeated that year.
Mhm.
Everybody was big on them and like nobody thought we had a chance. And we just ran the dog on them that night. I think we might even shut them out
Mhm.
that night, or if we didn't, they barely got on the scoreboard. I do remember that, but
Mhm.
man, that was a fun night. Whenever people are doubting what you can do, and
Yeah.
then you prove everybody wrong in a big way, they really stick with you.
Yeah, absolutely, and, it's always good to beat Greer. I know me and you, we lost to Greer and then Union, and then that final year we got handed to them. But it's funny how some of those games, those certain games, stick with you a little more than maybe even the biggest games that you coach in. And how's it like? Tell me a little bit talk to me about the community as a whole, how they support you, and how that helps what you do on Friday night.
Man, the community support, that's part of what made it easy to come back home and,
There you go.
stay in this area and not leave.
There you go.
Is there's not many places that you can go, and
Yeah.
they're going to support you like the Belton and Honey Path communities do. So we're grateful for it too,
Yeah.
because we see we go to the places, we have coaches come into our program and from other places, and they talk about what other experiences are like, and it's not the same everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're blessed and honored to be where we're at,
Yeah.
So it's been awesome to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm with you. I just want to commend the community as a whole. There's so much more nowadays that can take your attention away, but giving these guys the recognition and the support that they deserve, they hardest working guys, that sort of thing. And I just want to commend the community as a whole, just being able to support a team that you're right. We go to some of these places and you're counting on two hands, mom and dad's in the stands, and then you look over on the BHP side and can't find a seat. So I just want to commend the
Yeah.
community as a whole.
For example, we had a kicker transfer in that played for us last year from North
Mhm.
Carolina, and now he's at Erskine kicking. But the first game, was a home game, and
Mhm.
we did the bear walk, and we're over there taking knee before we say our team prayer and run out. And his eyes are just huge. You know, I said, "You all right, man? You good?" He said, "I've never seen this many people at a high school football game."
There you
I
go.
said, "Well, welcome to BHP,
Yeah.
babe."
Yeah, that's right.
So, it's not like that everywhere.
You're right. You're right. Exactly. Yep. So those are great. I want to go so insightful, Chris, but I do want to go a little fast. I got 5 lightning round questions to ask you. Get your take super fast. All right. First one. Got a favorite defensive lineman, college or NFL?
I'm gonna get in trouble by my son if I don't. He loves the Chiefs, and if I don't say Chris Jones,
There you go.
you know, which that
Talk
guy's
about
awesome. He plays inside, outside, all over the defensive front.
talk about an inside game wrecker. You got a couple of those too. All right. What's more exciting for you, that 4th and 1 tackle for loss, or a 3rd down and long and you're getting after you sacking the quarterback?
Oh, third and long, sacking the quarterback. That
There
means
you
you
go.
did something right on first and second down too. You
There you
know,
go. There you go. Absolutely. All right. What's your favorite drill you run with your defensive line guys?
really anything that when we get the opportunity to go against our offensive line, because
There you
we
go.
know that's going to be a period we 100% get better at. Whether it's block recognition with them, doing pass rush against them, one-on-ones, anything we can get together and iron sharpen iron with those guys.
Absolutely. All right. What's more exciting? A playoff game where BHP, it's a home playoff game, BHP's packed in the stands, or a away playoff game where the Bears take over a road stands?
Being a road warrior and taking over somebody else's place.
There you go.
Definitely.
Show up at the trap, take over the trap, I hear. All right. So last one. What's one word to describe your defensive line group this year?
I would say family.
There you go.
You know, we've got a team shirt that we wear this year. It says family, and we talk to our guys about it. It's forget about me. I love you. That's what family stands for. And it's not about what I do. It's about what can I do for my teammates and having that mentality. And that's what those guys believe in, and what we go to battle with every week. Every Friday night.
Absolutely. That's a great, yeah. And you got some family, some true family, some blood family on there. So that's great.
That's
So,
right.
yeah. So with that, I do want to thank you, Chris. This was so great. I love that you're able to come on here and really shine a light on your guys, the hard work they've put in. One is showing on the field, but also, like you said, showing in some postseason awards, especially last year. I think nearly everybody was recognized. I think that's going to be the same thing this year. I just want to commend you for your hard work. It's a testament to what you've put into these guys and how you continue to work with them, and just the production that they're showing is represents you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate, like I said earlier, I appreciate you guys, and good catching up with you, buddy.
Absolutely. Before we go, I got to get your best. How about them Bears before we leave?
All right. How about those Bears?
There you go. Thanks, Chris, and we'll talk to you Friday. See you, man.
Awesome. See you.
All right, now let's talk about the game against Palmetto, the dominant win for the Bears against a proximity rival of the Palmetto Mustangs. For the second week in a row, the Bears were up on the scoreboard before the offense even got on the field. This week, the Bears forced the Mustangs to punt, and on that opening punt, Tajay Watson-Martin takes it back for a punt return touchdown to put the Bears up 7-0 early in that contest. The domination didn't stop there. On the defensive side, the Bears really kept Palmetto from getting any kind of rhythm on offense, any true positive yards. At the end of the game, Palmetto averaged 1.1 yard per play. They had 42 total plays on offense, 47 total yards. I think they only made it past the 50-yard line twice in the entire game, and the Bears just showed a dominance that they've shown each and every game, but it really ratcheted up against Palmetto. Offensively, the Bears were led on the running attack by MJ Earl. He had 9 rushes for 126 yards, 3 touchdowns. Along with him, we saw the stable of running backs. B.J. Anderson had 5 rushes for 13 yards. Malachi Hester had 2 rushes for 16 yards. Taze Ware 2 rushes for 13 yards. And Noah Thomas had 2 rushes for 12 yards. But then we also saw Malachi Bowler, who came in late in the game and took over for Noah at quarterback. He called his number 5 times and rushed it for 57 yards. A very efficient, very explosive runner Bowler was in the game. Passing wise, Noah was perfect on the night. He was 8 for 8 for 85 yards and 2 TDs. He hooked up with Jakari Anderson late in the first half on a spectacular throw and catch. He was escaping the pocket. He threw it 39 yards on a rope. Jakari catches it over the shoulder and tiptoes his way into the end zone. We didn't know if the referee was going to call him in or not, but he did. It counted for a touchdown for the Bears, and it was a spectacular play for those 2 guys. As we said, offensively, very efficient night, very explosive night. 322 yards on only 37 plays. That's 837 yards of that was rushing. So another night of the Bears being dominant on that offensive side as well. Along with that, leading defensive wise for the Bears against Palmetto was Kylan Dixon. He had 2 total tackles, but both of those were sacks. He was a very disruptive in the backfield. He also caused a fumble, recovered by the Bears, and 2 plays later, the Bears would score based on that turnover. Then Kanaza Bryant had a sack and 2 tackles for losses. Ty DeBose had a sack. Jakari Anderson had a sack, and Ty Rainey all had a sack for the Bears, along with an interception by D. Chester. It was returned for a touchdown, but ended up calling a penalty on the play, and it was returned back to the offense. But the interception will stand for D in the stat books for the season. That continues a streak for the Bears of they've had a takeaway in every game this year. So this defense is not only dominant in the stopping of offenses, 3 and outs and that sort of thing, but also very well, doing very well in the takeaway department as well. But once again, like I said, rivalry and proximity only. So the Bears go 53-7 all time against Palmetto. Currently on a 17-game win streak. Coach Blackson's never lost against Palmetto. He's 16-0 against the Mustangs. So once again, the Bears take care of business. Go 5-0 on the season. Continue keep that perfect record alive. And with that, let's talk about the 5 games through the season. Let's talk about the first half season stats for the Bears. I always start on the offensive side when we talk about stats and game performances, but let's do a little different. As we start talking about the mid-season totals for the Bears, let's talk about the defensive leaders. The one player that stands out, he leads the team in defensive points. Defensive points, what that is, each category, assisted tackles, solo tackles, hurries, tackle for loss, all carry a different point weight, and then that point total is multiplied by the number of that stat that player has, and then those totals will add up to total defensive points. So far this season, Ty DeBose leads the team with 164 of those defensive points, making up those points. He has 20 total tackles, leads the team in that stat with 17 assisted tackles, along with 3 quarterback hurries, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, even has has an interception return for a touchdown against Lawrence, and then he also has a caused fumble and a blocked field goal. All he needed was a partridge in a pear tree, and we have a song for Ty. Along with Ty, we have KJ Miles, who has been very active both in the backfield and in the takeaway department. He currently has 5 tackles for loss, second on the team in that stat. He also has 2 forced fumbles, has a fumble recovery, a block kick, and he also has 2 pass breakups on the season, along with a fumble recovery for a touchdown against Broome. Defensive line, we talked with Coach Rogers about that group. Those guys are leading in some of these categories. Kanaza Bryant leads the team with 6 tackles for loss. He also has 2 sacks and a fumble recovery. Also has 3 pass breakups. Just like Coach Rogers said, he is tied for the team lead in pass breakups at the defensive end position. Along with Kanaza, we have Kamarian Glenn, who has 3 tackles for loss on the season. We also have Kylan Dixon. He has 5 quarterback hurries on the season, and he leads the team. He's tied for the lead with the other defensive end, Ty Rainey, with 3 sacks on the season. And then at the linebacker position, Jakari Anderson, North-South awardee today, has the team lead in quarterback hurries. He also has 23 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 pass breakups on the season. Just a dominant performance by the entire defensive squad. Feel free to check out thembears.com for the full season stat list. It has both the offense and defensive stats for the season, so please look at those throughout the season. Let's jump over to the season stats on the offensive side. Just as dominant as the defense has been, the offensive has been just so far this year. The offense has scored 225 points total, while the defense has only allowed 44 total points this season. That's an average of 45 points per game, while only allowing 8 points per game, which is quite dominant. With that, only 16 points have been scored in the first 3 quarters of any game this season against the Bears. Just a dominant performance on that end. For the Bears, they have rushed for 1,150 yards on the season on 177 attempts. That's a 6.5 yard per carry average. They're averaging 230 yards per game, and they've scored 18 rushing TDs on the season. Passing yards, they have completed 54 passes on 90 attempts and only 3 interceptions, that for 776 yards on the season. That's 8.6 yards per pass, but 14.4 yards per completion, and they're averaging 155 yards per game through the air, with 10 touchdowns on the season. Leading that on the offensive side, there's 6 Bear rushers that have 15 or more rushes on the season. All have are averaging more than 5 yards per carry. E.J. Anderson has 34 rushes for 179 yards with 2 touchdowns on the season. M.J. Earl leads all rushers with 34 attempts for 270 yards on the season and 5 TDs. Then Noah Thomas has 28 rushes for 251 yards and 5 TDs. Malachi Hester has 17 rushes for 89 yards and a TD. Then Tajay Ware with 23 rushes for 145 yards and a TD. And then lastly, Cam Robinson has 27 rushes for 161 yards on the season. Passing, Noah's been extremely efficient. He has 54 completion on 84 attempts with all 776 passing yards. Only 2 interceptions on the season. Both came against Broome, riding a 4-game streak of no turnovers from the passing perspective. And he also has a 10 passing TDs on the season. Receiving, his top target is Tajay Watson-Martin with 18 receptions for 266 yards with 4 TDs. Along with Tajay, Jakari Anderson has 6 receptions for 132 yards and 2 TDs. Jacobs Paul has 10 receptions for 109 yards and 2 TDs. Along with them, we have Jaden Glenn with 7 receptions for 95 yards, and MJ Earl out of the backfield, 5 receptions for 75 yards on the season. Kicking for the Bears, special teams. We don't talk about this very often, but been very, very rock steady kicking the ball this year. PAT wise, Benji Ward leads the way with 25 made PATs on 27 attempts, and then no field goal attempts on the season. We haven't attempted a field goal, so no field goal attempts on the season. Punt wise, we've only punted it 6 times on the entire season. Noah Thomas, the leading punter, 5 punts for 34-yard average. And then kickoffs, Benji Ward has handled all of that with 38 total kickoffs, 3 touchbacks, and an average of 48.7 yards per kickoff. With that, like I said, on the defense side, please check out thembears.com for the full stat line, both individual games and the season totals as a whole. We would love for you to check out that, follow us there, and check out any of those current season and past season stats as we go through the season. But that's a wrap up on a quick overview of the mid-season stats. Hopefully we'll be adding to those week in and week out, and we'll touch on this in a few more weeks. Now with that, let's jump over and preview the game against Chapman. All right, Bear fans, this week the Bears will travel up to Spartanburg County to face the Chapman Panthers. BHP will come into the matchup 5-0, while the Chapman Panthers will be limping into the game 0-5. They opened the season with a 43-0 loss against Daniel, followed by a 56-0 loss to Boiling Springs. Then they face St. Joe's, where they lost 35-34, a 1-point loss there. And then they took Clinton, a 2A team, one of the top 2A teams in the state, to overtime, but lost with a 40-34 loss in overtime. And then last week they faced Christchurch and lost 48-20 on the season. But with that, Chapman still has some highlight players, especially on the offensive side. What Chapman likes to do is run a run-based offense out of the shotgun. They like to have those H-backs, multiple running backs at one time. One of those running backs, Chris Moorman, he's a powerful but quick back. He's kind of their home run hitter back within the offense. Along with him, they'll have Josiah Copeland, who is that bruiser inside the tackle box type of runner. But these two play off of each other extremely well. Quarterback for the Panthers is Bryson Cawthorn. He is extremely skilled at playing off of that run offense, throwing the ball on play action, rolling out and hitting some of those backs coming out of the backfield. In that game against Clinton, he was 13 for 19 for 162 yards. So against top talent, he is still able to put up very good numbers and will be a challenge for the Bears. For the Bears, we just like we said last week, it's a game to keep focus. I know sometimes that could be hard, especially when the records show such a disparity. But for BHP, there's only 10 of these games that are given. This is just another one of those opportunities for the Bears to show their dominance, both offensively and defensively. One good thing we saw last weekend against Palmetto, and we would need to see again this week, is the energy, especially from the defensive side, how being dominant on that side of the ball doesn't get boring. The focus stays there the entire game. We would need to see that once again against the Chapman Panthers. Then on offense, more of the same. We want to see that offensive line being able to push and get a lot of secondary run yards from those backs, keep those backs rotating, keep the fresh legs coming. Been doing a great job of that, and then take advantage of anytime those defensive backs are up close with some deep shots to Tajay and Jakari, Jaden, and It seems like the Bears can keep running guys out there to make plays in all aspects of offense. But with that, with a win against the Panthers this week, Coach Blackson will get his 140th career win. Currently, he sits at 139-44. So with a win against the Panthers, he'll be looking to get that 140th win of his career. So with that, let me jump over and we'll give you 5 quick stats to get you ready for the upcoming game against Chapman. BHP is currently 5-1 all time against the Panthers. Currently 1-1 under Coach Blackson. The only loss to Chapman under Coach Blackson came back when a guy named Deebo Samuel played for the Panthers. They came in and beat BHP in a playoff game back I think in 2013. Along with that, BHP is averaging 36, has an average scoring margin, so outscoring their opponents by 36.2 points per game. That's the largest average winning margin for a season for BHP ever is 29.43 in 2023, and then 29.08 in 1999. This average scoring margin, if the season ended today, would be about a touchdown more than any season ever at BHP. We mentioned this last week, but this senior class has won 41 games in their 4-year span. That ties a school record with 3 other seasons. The 2000 senior class, the 2004 senior class, and the 2006 senior class all are tied at that 41 mark. With a win there, they would become the first team to win more than 41 games in a 4-year span. Along with that, since 2014, BHP is 41-3 in games where they've scored a non-offensive touchdown. This season, BHP has scored a non-offensive touchdown in every game except for the Greer game. So it'll be exciting to see if they can keep that streak going. Then we talked about Kylan Dixon with Coach Rogers. He is currently 2 sacks away from a career defensive triple-double. He currently sits at 22 tackles for loss, 21 quarterback hurries, and 8 sacks for his career. So it'll be great to see if he can get to that career triple-double there. And then lastly, BHP, since 2014, BHP has only had 8 games where they ran fewer than 40 plays in a game and gained 300 or more yards. And in those games where they ran less than 40 plays and gained more than 300 yards, they are 8-0. So it's good to see even when they're not able to get a lot of plays, they're able to still put up those points and get the win. This Friday night, it'll be great to see Bear fans hit the road. It's one of the longer trips for the Bears this year, but we know the Bear community, the BHP community, will travel to support these teams. And we're excited to see you there on Friday night. But with that concludes our episode 9 of the Bear Rumble podcast. I want to thank Coach Rogers once again for being here, being on, and representing his defensive line group. We thank you for being here with us. We ask that you subscribe and tell others about the podcast. we also want to point you toward thembears.com, where you can see these stats that we went over tonight. We also put out a weekly blog post where we go in more depth of the previous game, the upcoming game, and we give 15 of those quick stats. Also give my predictions, so feel free to check out that each week. Also follow us on Friday night on our social media accounts, where we are live tweeting highlights and stats, and then on Facebook we'll give the final stat line, scores, and the individual totals there as well. But with that, we do thank you once again for being with us one more week, and just like always, let me leave you with my best. How about them Bears?